Live from Liverpool, we need to talk about ghosts with Kevin Eustace.
Oh, I didn't expect that to be recording so quick. What do you know? I tell you what, caught with my pants down. Not literally, of course. That would be an obscene publication. I do hope that we're all well. Welcome to the Sunday sermon. And tell you what feedback we received midweek regarding last week's episode with Tammy. Yes, Tammy put the fear of living God into everybody who listens to the show with her little EVP that went, Tammy. It was horrible. It was scary. It was pant-defyingly awesome. And yes, I need to thank Tammy and Matt for being on last week's show. It was bloody awesome. But we don't rest on our laurels here at Wintag Towers. No, we don't. We bring you more and more paranormal content. Yes. And in spirit of that, yes, we have two fantastic callers coming on today. We have the wonderful Rynn, all the way from Maine in USA, where Stephen King lives, I believe, where he does his fishing, I imagine. And the fantastic storyteller herself, Miss Tiyi Shippers, and she's amazing. It's Tiyi. It's not two different words. Anyway, she's fantastic. She's got a book out, and her tales are terrifying. So we have those amazing tales told by the people themselves to come in yet another bumper. We need to talk about ghosts. Yes. So should we have a quick thank you to our wonderful new Patreons? Yes, we shall. I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreons, but especially our new ones, who we say thank you to via the medium of song. Because the guitar's out, that's why it's out. We have three wonderful new patrons this week. Sarah Rose Pearson, lovely name, Emily and Julia. And this song is for you three wonderful ladies. Here we go. Sarah Rose Pearson, Emily and Julia. You've signed up to the Patreon. You're keeping the dream alive. I just want to thank you all. You're keeping the lights on and letting me talk about ghosts to y'all. Ended it on a 7th. And he also said the word y'all. How very country of me. So thank you to you three wonderful ladies. Don't forget, if you want to become a Patreon, you get over 100 extra episodes. And this week, over the next 2 weeks, in fact, we're running a competition for our wonderful Patreons where they could win, just by liking a post on the Patreon page, a signed copy of our book, We Need to Talk About Ghosts, Volume 1, Listener Stories. Yes, we are indeed. So you can enter that competition and much more by going over to patreon.com/We Need to Talk About Ghosts. Anyway, should we see what weird things have been happening in the week this week? Yes, we shall, Kevin. Why, thank you, Kevin. Weekend Weird. Yes, it's time once again to look at everything weird and wonderful that's been taking place over the last 7 days. Now, in the last 7 days, as I've spoke about previously on the show, we have been looking more and more likely that we're going to receive some sort of disclosure regarding the existence of UFOs and aliens from the American government, CIA, and other departments, of course. But the most recent news has been from a new website that's been launched by a lot of people behind the Stars to the Academy, things like that, which you'll know about if you're into that sort of thing. It's a website called thedebrief.com. Now, this week, their internet servers broke because they released this article which featured a photograph taken by a military personnel in the backseat of an FA-18 fighter jet. This is a picture of what looks to me like a demon's head, but it's not. It's like it looks arguably like, imagine a demon-shaped balloon, just a head, a helium balloon. That's what I thought it was. But the interesting part about this story is that this has came direct from a government investigation, this photograph has, because they have ruled out a balloon and they have ruled out everything else because they're the bloody military. Experts are at a loss to explain the object, but the best hypothesis is that it could be a GPS drop sonde, an atmospheric measuring device dropped by meteorologists over a hurricane. However, this would not explain why it was still being investigated by the Department of Defence. Now, the UK guy who knows about all this stuff, because he was formerly employed by the UK government, Nick Pope, He says these revelations are extraordinary and they give the public a genuine peek behind the curtain when it comes to how the US government is handling the UFO issue. Yes. He says what this new information does is confirm that the US government is now taking the UFO phenomena more seriously than ever before. He closed with, I anticipate further revelations shortly. Yes. So is this it? A lot of people are hypothesizing online that Mr. Trump is going to leave office with some sort of bombshell. Yes, he is. Would that bombshell be suited to be releasing information regarding aliens? Is this president going to leave the White House with an announcement that UFOs are not only here, but they've been here for some time, living in our oceans? Maybe, only time will tell. Anyway, until next week, that's been this week's Week in Weird.
Week in Weird.
Okay, so as part of our wonderful little segment that we're doing where we're speaking to listeners live and in the flesh, well, via the medium of the internet, of course, I have on my computer screen right now, you won't be able to see it because it's an audio podcast, but I have the pleasure to talk to one of our long-time listeners and someone I've had the pleasure of interacting with via the medium of the internet for quite a while now, and that is the wonderful Rynn. Hello, Rynn.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing in this fantastic 2020?
Is that really where you want to start?
No, it's a good. No, I won't. I'll quickly reverse that vehicle out of that conversation. Whereabouts are you in the US?
I'm in Maine.
Maine, isn't that not Steven Spielberg, Stephen King country?
Yep, it is indeed. He's our claim to fame, and Patrick Dempsey.
Who's Patrick Dempsey? He's the actor.
Yeah, he's the actor. He was on, oh no, I've forgotten the name of it's a woman's name. It's one of those doctor shows that I didn't watch, but you know.
I know the name, yeah. Is he what's known in the business as a heartthrob?
Yes, they called him McDreamy.
Oh, I know. Just from that, I know that. It's not Dawson's Creek. The doctor program. There was McDreamy and McSteamy, wasn't there? And
yes.
Yeah. Everyone listening to this now is saying, it's this, you fools. Fate, that's going to do my head in. You know,
right.
Just it's all right. We shouldn't do this, but whilst you're live, I'm actually gonna ring Becca because I won't be able to rest until I've got that. I'll put her on speakerphone too. So hold on. Here we go.
Grey's Anatomy.
I'm going to just have to say sorry to Becca.
All right.
Hello?
Hiya, sorry, you're live on the podcast. I was going to ask you what series Patrick Dempsey was in, but we've just found out it's Grey's Anatomy.
Right, okay.
Okay, okay, I'll let you go. Bye now.
Bye.
There you go. So yeah, we didn't need to ring Becca, but thank you, Rynn. Grey's Anatomy, that's it. Yeah, I knew it was something like that.
And I knew it was based on the Grey's Anatomy is a book.
It's a book, yeah.
With all that medical stuff. All right.
There we go. So that solved that riddle anyway. So Maine. So we were talking about cats before we started recording because obviously our neighbour's cat wanders in quite regularly and you've got quite a few cats. Do you own a Maine Coon cat?
That's what Manny is. Manny is a Maine Coon.
Oh, okay. And are they just bigger cats?
They're big, they're vocal, they're huge personalities.
Yeah, and they're huge with it though, aren't they? They're like little tigers sort of thing. I've seen pictures. Not seen one in the flesh.
They're huge. There's if you watch Star Trek Discovery, they have a Maine Coon cat on there. And
as an actor?
Yeah, as part of the
okay.
Part of the cast.
Part of the crew, yeah.
Yeah. Her name is Grudge.
Is she like, we must go light speed and I demand more milk?
She stares down people like you would hope a cat would do.
Yeah. That sounds like the only reason you'd hire a cat for a film or a program, I think, to give snarls out. Okay, so obviously this isn't a cat nor main podcast. I wish it were. What fun we'd have. But it is indeed, of course, a ghost podcast, and we're going to talk about ghosts, hence the title of the show. So, Rynn, scare us, please. Go ahead, scare us.
Okay. So when I was in my late teens, I was living with my grandmother and we shared a bed.
Mhm.
And I woke up middle of the night, dark. It's not, there were street lights because this is when I was living sort of in town.
Mm.
So there was some light, but it was really diffused. So it's just, shapes of gray.
Yeah.
Lay on my back. I wake up. I'm looking at the ceiling and I can see that there's a figure standing next to the bed, kind of leaning over me, sort of at hip level.
Mm.
And I was so scared. And I thought, okay, we got to figure this out. So I'm thinking, okay, well, it's my bathrobe.
Mm.
Well, no, because I can see my bathrobe kind of through it.
Right.
And there was a little alcove just behind it. And all right, well, there's something hanging there. And I couldn't figure out what else it could be.
Yeah.
Except
An
a
actual
ghost.
figure.
Right. And I was afraid to look at it because I couldn't tell which way it was looking, if it was sort of staring down or if it was looking up at my face.
Oh.
And I didn't want to make eye contact.
Yeah, I bet you didn't, yeah.
So I just, after a while, I closed my eyes, flipped over onto my side, pushed myself up against my grandmother, and fell back to sleep.
Mm.
And so the next day I went into the bedroom and I said, look, you're here. I'm here. We're good. I don't need to see you.
It's a very mafia response to this ghost. Isn't it? Listen, we're good, okay? You're you, I'm me. Amazing.
You do your thing. I don't gotta see it. So for a couple of days there was nothing. And I'm cooking, and if you're like me, if you've got a can of something, you take the spoon that you're stirring with and you just rest it in the can so you don't make a mess. So I'm standing there and I'm doing my thing, and I put the spoon in the can and the can starts to slide across the stove.
What?
And I, of course, my heart's in my throat, but I said, that's enough, knock it off. And it stopped. And I picked it up and I'm looking, there's no condensation.
Yeah.
It just slid. And I said, look, we had a plan here. You're not to do that again.
Sorry. It's terrifying, but funny at the same time.
I know. That's the New England way.
That's
you
amazing.
Just get your hackles up and just say no.
Yeah. Amazing. Rynn, they should, like Ghost Adventurers and Zach Bagans and all that crew. They should get you in just because I know I'm not a fan of those shows either, but I would be if you were on it, because it would be fantastic to see them go, I think it's the devil himself. And you go, now listen here, devil.
Me throwing my coat off. Where is he?
Exactly, yeah. That's terrible. Was it an old house?
It was an older apartment building. We moved in there because my great aunt lived upstairs, so they had an opening and we moved in.
Yeah.
I should probably check that out because the place I'm living now was built in 1900.
Wow. And I know that anytime I try to say this when I'm speaking to someone stateside, it always comes across as patronizing, and I do not mean it to sound so, but I'll say the sentence anyway. That is old for the US, isn't it? 100.
It is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
and
I'm not just saying that because there are buildings older here. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter, but that's still over 100 years old as a building.
Yeah, indeed. I should check that out. I wish I'd thought of that before. But yeah, the place that I'm living now used to be a farmhouse.
Really? Like a converted one now or something, obviously.
Yeah, it's 3 apartments. And my bedroom and living room used to be the barn.
Wow. And how old's that,
It's the whole thing was built at the same time in 1900. They actually had cattle and chicken and everything.
So do you live, I'll try and say this right, do you live rurally at the moment?
I live in the city, but it's a small city.
Oh, okay.
I'm like walking distance from the store or the post office or whatever, but
Yeah. I do get concerned when I'm speaking to someone via web interface, if you like, because I always think, oh, we'll talk about ghosts, we'll talk about ghosts. And then I'm in the city centre. I was going to say I could go to a disco now. I can't because we're in lockdown. But I mean, I always get concerned if somebody's like in the middle of the woods and I've just, we've built each other up into some sort of follow-you-do frenzy. And then you have to go outside into the woods. So I'm just checking that you're not going to have to do anything like that, really.
No, I don't have to take down any trees today.
Excellent. So did you ever have an idea, or did your grandmother ever see this figure?
Oh, no. She would not have admitted if she'd seen it.
Okay.
She was old Catholic, ghosts don't exist because that's not with God. And it's like,
Yeah, very interesting. So, was that all? When I say was that all, was that your entire episode with the figure that looked over you?
That was the only time that happened, and I'm very happy about it. But I was thinking about, everyone says, well, then I just closed my eyes and went to sleep.
Yeah.
There's something in surrendering. It's like, okay, you know what? You got me. This is the only thing I can do. So you fall asleep.
It's an interesting point that, because you're right. Everybody listens to this will have heard a story where it's someone was at the end of my bed. I put my head under the covers and I fell asleep. And you're right. Yeah. I was one of the people who would also always say, I don't get that. Why? How could you fall asleep? But you've just explained it rather perfectly there. That idea of surrendering, because it's similar to. I can only imagine it triggers a similar thing. Like when people have a car accident or similar, and you reach a place of calm as it's taken place, and it's that surrendering again. I can only imagine it's a similar sort of bodily hormone or something that you're kicking in.
Yeah, just anything. It's a survival instinct. It's like, you know what? If I still just lay here and don't look at this figure, my heart's going to explode. Yeah. I'm going to start screaming. There's just these things don't make it doesn't make it any better. Yeah. So you do the thing that, okay, you know what? We're shutting it down.
Yeah. So I wonder now if on this very podcast right here and now, we've rewritten the rules of science so that it's not just fight or flight anymore. It's fight, flight, or nap. That's the new one that should come in now. It could very well be.
Or snooze.
Or snooze, yeah. I'll go with snooze. That is when I go into a fight next week and think, I think I'm going to have a nap. Thank you very much.
What did you say to me?
Yeah, it is. You know what, though? It could arguably be that because I talking about fighting, I was once badly beaten up. And in the midst of it, I do remember thinking, well, this can't get any worse. And, kind of just plateauing out and being like, I feel, you can't hurt me anymore because I'm very hurt at the minute. And then, like, for the next week after it, I mean, I was probably concussed, but I remember, even to this day, I remember thinking, I've never felt so blissed because it was like, what more could go wrong? Do you know what I mean? It was a very interesting feeling. And I often think, when I'm feeling stressed nowadays, I sometimes think, do I just need a good kicking? Is that what to reset? And I've genuinely thought maybe I just need to go and start a fight with someone and get battered.
Don't tell Becca that. Jeez.
No, I won't. No, yeah. No, she'd have me carted off before she beat me up, I tell you.
Oh, boy. Oh, Kev, have you been getting yourself beaten again? Well, I
just wanted to
calm
relax.
Down. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a backwards version of Fight Club.
That's right.
So, apart from our lovely grey watcher, as we'll call it for the show, have you experienced anything else that scared the living life out of you?
Well, I had a weird thing when I was little. We were in the country at this point, and we had stone walls that were very popular in Maine for a long time that would just sort of divide people's property.
Yeah.
And these stone walls went for miles.
Right.
And my cousin he and I were on one of these walls, and there's patches of lichen on
Yeah.
there. And we were just kind of playing and talking, and suddenly this section of lichen rose up, slid over, and went back down onto the stone. My cousin, bless his heart, started screaming. I start poking at it. It was like, why did that slide? That shouldn't be moving. And it adhered to the rock. I have no clue what that was.
So when it landed again, you mean it was like it had always been there, sort of thing, when you say it adhered, yeah?
Yeah, it was like it hadn't moved, but we both saw it move.
Oh my God. That's strange.
What is that?
Yeah, if you've seen it, the thing is, if you'd seen it kind of just slide across and stick, then, but if you've seen it raise up and almost levitate and move across.
Yeah, I mean, it was only maybe an inch or so up, but I mean, it was enough that it cast a shadow.
Wow. That's nature. Like we've done, you may have heard some Patreon shows on nature spirits and all that carry on. And it's an interesting thing. I didn't personally realize that there was such a split not a split, sorry, that's the wrong word. What I basically mean is I see the pattern, because I believe, or should I say, I'll be open to most stories of most things. That to me, the paranormal is just one big melting pot. But I didn't realize, like, for example, I've mentioned it before, but Becca's stepfather, he takes what I view as the paranormal melting pot. He discounts like 98.9% of it and is quite rational and be like, don't be daft, don't be daft, don't be daft. But he's a very educated guy, but he says if he was to believe in something, he would genuinely believe in the spirits of nature. He said he believe in like a collective entity made by the wood, for example, that tried to protect itself. And it's always not unbalanced me, but it struck me with a bit of discord, really, because I can't reconcile that in my head. I can't be like, I don't understand why you think us sentient beings can die and nothing can go on, but there's a collective force from nature. And he's talked about, like, there's trees in America apparently where when they reach the very top of these exceptionally tall trees, they don't touch each other. Because they allow the sunlight to come through and help each other, and they work as a community. And the more he talks, the more it makes a lot of sense. But then you have to, and it may sound bizarre, because I know that a lot of people who are into either biology or they're into other things or science in general may find it a lot more conceivable that plants, trees, etc. have sentience than we carry on after death. And I don't know.
Right. Well, that's also, they communicate in a different way. I mean, I just heard, I'm always listening to No Such Thing as a Fish podcast.
Yes, great podcast.
Oh, my God. They were talking about this huge expanse of trees, and actually it's just one tree.
Really?
That all the roots have come up through the earth and grown into trees. So you're looking at this corpse of trees and it's one.
Wow.
So I can see how, if it was one being, that it would know what it needed. It'd
know how to protect itself. And
right.
Yeah, that is insane. That is jolly insane. So is there any, moving just off topic of talking trees, because I can lose my head in that, I really can. Yes. We've got a jar of roses on the table there, and I'm looking at them thinking they're going to come after me. Because, honestly, because you know what? I mean, I've just said I'll go off this, but another thing, and it's not ghost related, but I've seen it recently and it blew my mind. You can go into a YouTube hole and you just start clicking and clicking and clicking.
Yep.
Well, I ended up on this farmer's mobile phone film video, and he's convinced, and he says he's not alone in this theory in the UK, that I imagine that you get them in America too, but like a bramble bush, like when it's got thorns on it,
right?
Well, we have like they tend to make up like the outskirts of a farm, or they can in the UK, and he's convinced that they're carnivorous. He says they've never ever been labelled as carnivorous, but he's convinced they are. He says each year he finds approximately 10 sheep dead they've not been able to get out of the bramble, and the bramble's hooks are actually curved inwards, which would
Right.
imply that it's harder to escape from. And he was saying, in the places where I find a sheep that's rotted into the earth, the bramble seems stronger than ever. It's took the nutrients from the dead animal. And I was like, oh my God. He was like, nobody ever labels brambles as carnivorous. He said, but they are carnivorous. He said, you ask any farmer, they'll tell you brambles will actively trap a sheep. And I'm like, what? That's like something from the Triffids.
Well, yeah, because there are some plants that do really well with blood, that they'll make them grow good and strong. So maybe these brambles, that's what they're
Maybe.
doing, is they're not actively doing it, but just because they own these thorns,
Yeah, yeah.
they'll get the nutrients they need.
Possibly. I think we've got a bit of a connection thing there. You might still be there, but I may edit part of that out anyway, where the little blurb was. I think at my end it went a bit funny. Is it clear on your end?
It is now.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Glitchy.
weird for a second. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll move back onto the topic of ghosts. So, other than what you've seen there in Maine, is there any famous ghost stories around where you are, or any other haunted or residences?
Well, I'm about 2.5, 3 hours from Salem.
Oh, wow, the Salem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I sent you that story about the haze.
Of course you did.
Yeah. That was weird. Just that not only that little patch of earth had, I don't know, maybe 2.5 feet by 4 or 5 feet, just in front of the tombstone. That haze. It was so weird.
That's so good. You know what? People are joining all the time. So can you just give us that story again? Just because
Okay.
I think there might be people. I know what you're on about, and it's fantastic. But yeah, if you just want to regurgitate that for us, that'd be amazing.
Okay. Regurgitate.
I know. Yeah. Sorry for the word.
Oh.
There we go.
There it is. Enjoy. My friend Claire and I were traveling back in 2000, just driving around New England, and we went up into Toronto and decided we wanted to do Salem. And we realized as the sun is going down that it was the summer solstice and everybody was gathering. And it was really cool because, these are people that hide, because New England especially, if you say to someone, well, I'm a witch, they just, okay, you're a loony and I'm backing away. So the fact that they have this moment where they can all gather, I thought it was kind of emotional for me.
Yeah. No,
and as we're looking, and I'm like, do you see that? And she was like, yeah. So I went over and stuck my hand in it, and I didn't feel anything. She took pictures, and out of the 20 or 30 rolls of film, that was the only roll of film that she lost.
Wow.
So
I mean, did she physically lose it, or was there just nothing there? Physically lost
it lost the whole thing. We
Wow.
like a day and a half of pictures that are just, gone.
Oh. And what was the tombstone itself? Is it a tombstone of?
It was the witch's graveyard. And I couldn't tell you what the writing was on there. That's why we took pictures. So we really zoom in and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so it's really interesting the way you describe it, though. It's like kind of like a thick cut out piece of mist, like self-contained.
Yeah, that was what was so weird about it. And I'm like, what the heck is going on there? And I thought, okay, I'm imagining it. So Claire, she's a school teacher, so she's like, straight shooting.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I can see it. And it was just this haze, probably, like I say, maybe 4 feet tall.
Wow.
So maybe a woman.
I mean, 4 feet tall as a it's a 3D object for a mist. That's quite significant, really, isn't it? It's not just a, I don't know. It's not just a corner of the eye thing, should I say. If you can put your hand in it, for example.
Yeah. Well, that just I'm that girl. Is that real? Touch, touch, touch.
Yeah. If you're a witch, you want to get yourself out of here.
That's right. I'm gonna get you.
I don't know. I give you a New York accent, or my attempt at a New
know.
York accent. You know,
That's all
it's interesting though, because the on the side of witches and all that. Carry on. You'll have obviously heard of the Pendle witches in the UK, I imagine. No.
Give me more.
Okay, the Pendle witches. Basically, it was the Pendle witch trial. So there's a hill in Yorkshire, which in this, I think it was the 1600s, maybe 1700s. There was a group of kids who were blamed for like the usual, crops going awry, people falling down with a stroke, and they were all hung. There was like I think about 6, 7, or 8 of them, something. But they were all tried and found guilty as witches, and they were all hung. All these kids, and some like elderly people too, and it became notorious even as the Pendle witch case. So there's loads of good stuff on YouTube. Do watch it. It's a historical brilliance.
I will. I love that stuff.
It is really good. But interestingly, I said to Becca once, when we were coming back from the Lake District, we drive past Pendle Hill, and I said, let's go to the village of Pendle, because it's going to be, I imagine it's going to be full of like touristy, witchy stuff and all that carry on.
Right.
So we eventually get there. Little side note, I put in Pendle Hill into the sat nav. And Becca was like, doesn't look like there's a village around here. And we're getting deeper and deeper into like fields and countryside. And then it goes, you've reached your destination. And she stopped the car and went, if you literally just put Pendle Hill in and not like Pendle Village or whatever, I'm going to kill you. And I had, and that basically took us to the foot of a hill in the middle of nowhere, which you couldn't get up anyway. But long story short, anyway, then we found the village of Pendle, and there was 1 or 2 little like witchy shops there and a cafe and stuff. But the most interesting thing about that little village was, and it's an atypical, quaint English village. Every single house that people still lived in had a mirror balanced outside the door to deflect the evil eye. And when I only know that because I pointed out, I said to Becca, that's 3 houses we've went past and they've had a sheet mirror outside to the right of the door. And she went, oh yeah. And she went, there's another one. I was like, there's another one. Then we go into a shop, pick up a leaflet about the area. And it says on that leaflet, you will still find some residents of Pendle will keep a mirror outside of the house to deflect the evil eye. That's how, and it made me think, God, it's still active amongst the people in that village, that something so strong and so pervasive over time that they're still trying to ward off evil from these witches. Very interesting, though. Well,
that's also something in Feng Shui, is if you don't have like an entryway, if you enter directly into a living space, like if your outside door comes right into your kitchen, you're supposed to put a mirror inside reflecting the door so it bounces that energy that's coming in to keep your energy safe.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. The other thing is, you may have talked about this. I think they're called witches' doors or witches' windows, where they're windows or doors that are supposed to confuse a witch. I don't know how, but...
Yeah, I've seen those. And aren't they specific to, is it New England?
Well, there are quite a few around here, yeah.
Yeah, because I have seen those. I know what you mean. It's kind of it's generally for an upstairs room, isn't it? It's on like the side of a house above the garage sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's off angle.
Yeah.
Which you'd think you're flying a broom. Oh, I can't go in there. The window's all screwed up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I must admit, when I seen them, I thought, I love the idea of these witches' windows. Like, we'll design them so the witch can't fly in. But yeah, I did also think, like you've just said, it's not a very, like, the intelligence of this witch must be very low if they're like, there's no way I can get through that.
I've got all this magic and stuff. But...
Yeah. What's all this tilting to the side, you mean? I don't know. No, it's fantastic. So, so the place where you currently live anyway, just as we wind things up, the place where you live at the moment in this 100-year-old converted barn.
Yes.
You've no activity in there. I'm not trying to say I hope you do, by the way.
Take that. No, it's mostly I've had 2 cats that have passed while living here, and I have felt them get up onto the bed and walk around in a very specific way. I had one, my Jocelyn, she liked to lean against me.
Oh.
And so I would feel her leaning against me.
Yeah.
Like I would
That's
feel
beautiful.
her jump up, and the little, actually, Becca would love this. My best friend had an apartment in San Francisco, and she had a black cat whose name is Kisa. And I'm hanging out at her house, and I glance into the bathroom. There's Kisa on the sink shelf there, and I walk into the living room, and there's Kisa on the couch. I'm like, what the? And I said, what is going on with the black cat in the bathroom? And she says, I've seen this since I moved in, and I haven't said anything because I wanted to get confirmation.
Wow.
And she said, yeah. So they had a ghost cat.
Wow. And you know what? I can completely believe it. I mean, I'm not, I won't lie to you when I say this. I have not been ever an animal person or a pet person. And Becca's been a cat mad person. And then, thankfully our neighbor, I think everyone's onto this, but I'll keep it going for the sake of fun. But our neighbor got a cat, and now I couldn't imagine the neighbor's cat not being here. So normally if somebody, and you will have heard me actually, Rynn, in the past on shows before we got the cat, saying, don't send me stories about ghost animals. I'm not arsed. I want a story about a demon bursting through the wall. Whereas now, hearing that story, I got a lump in my throat. I'm thinking, whose was the cat? Why is no one looking after that cat?
No, but it was happy. I mean, if it wasn't happy, it wouldn't be there. It would have been scratching at the wall or something, but it was just sitting there. Just kind of like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Interesting. So technically you've seen a ghost.
I have.
Well, you've seen 2, if you include
the
one creeping over your bed.
Creeps. Ugh. God,
Amazing.
it still gives me goosebumps.
I've got goosebumps about it too. And the reason why I'll tell you this why, is because how you described it when you said it was bent over waist height and you couldn't see features on the face. There's a very famous painting of a Japanese ghost who stood in a fire pit, and it's always bent at like a 45-degree angle from the hip.
Really?
Yeah. And that's what springs to mind when you said bent from the hip. Because anytime somebody says, it's just me personally, but whenever somebody says, oh, they were stood up straight and then they bent at the hip, because it's such a specific bend or a specific way to describe a bend, I see this Japanese spirit stood in fire.
It's a very specific, you don't just do that.
No, you don't.
There's something going on, and I'm just going to go to sleep.
Fight, flight, or nap. And you chose the right option. Okay, well, so. Rynn, it's been absolutely brilliant speaking to you, and it's a pleasure to actually verbalize with you as opposed to just online. So thank you very much for doing this.
And thank you for doing the shows. They're so fun.
Oh, well, I do hope so. But sincerely, thank you for doing this. And we'll have to get you back on and keep an update on your cats. Because I am very interested, as we've just established. But sincerely, Rynn, thank you so much. And thank you for coming on to talk to me about ghosts.
And cats.
And cats. See, this is my new catchphrase now, because I can say that now, because the show was, I keep saying, let's talk about ghosts. And so we need to talk about
sassy.
Ghosts.
Let's talk about ghosts.
It is. I could do a jingle. I might do a new jingle. But no, sincerely, that's my new word as well. Sincerely. So sincerely, thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, then have you got anyone anything you want to plug or anything you want to say hello to? I ask people just in case they say, oh, I should have said this.
No, I mean, Tiyi, my best friend, listens, so she'll be.
Oh, hello,
she'll
T.
hear this.
Well, there you go. T for two and 2 for T. All right, then. Thanks, Rynn. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
There we go, the wonderful Rynn there. Thank you, Rynn, for getting in touch. Oh, I need to watch it. I've basically bought a new microphone stand, but it's like on a spring sort of thing, and I keep punching it, and it keeps like hitting me in the face. Yes, it's got a good self-defense mechanism, really. Well, we are at the midpoint. Let's do some German. Wo ist den Midpoint? Ein Midpoint ist in meinen Hausen. Wenn ist den Midpoint? Ein Midpoint ist den now. Now? Ja, now. Okay, that officially proves we're at the midpoint. If any proof were needed. Anyway, big thank you to Rynn for getting in touch and coming on the show. If you'd like to come on the show and do what Rynn done there, that's like a t-shirt. Do what Rynn done there. Yes. You need to email contact@talkaboutghosts.com. Go and get a pen. I'll wait. Ah, you're back. Good, you've got a pen. Okay, write this down. contact@talkaboutghosts.com. Very good. Okay, now email that address if you want to come on the show and tell your story in the flesh. If you want to write your story and Kev, will read it out, then just write down your story. We've got a few there. Thank you to everyone who sent those in. We're going to be doing a show on those very shortly. Don't you worry. Everything's getting read out. But if you want to come on and talk about your experience, then you can do. Just let me know what you want, when you want to come on, when's good for you to come on, and we'll sort it out. I've already done a few recordings today. I'm very excited for those. They're going to come out next week. Yes, it's quite a not multicultural. What word would you say? Well, people from different nations. Let's just put it that way. Coming on next week. Huzzah, I say indeed. It's a worldwide show. Yes, it is. So yeah, do that. Get in touch. As I said earlier, if you want to become a Patreon, get access to over 100 extra shows, then you need to go to patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. And over the next 2 weeks, well, 10 days from now, really, so we can hopefully get it to you before Christmas, we're running a competition over there on Patreon, so you get a signed copy of our book that we released. Yes, that's exciting, isn't it? And all you have to do to that is sign up and like a post. And that obviously goes for all existing Patreons too. They just go and like the post. Okay, and that winner will be chosen at random, of course. Now, in the meantime, we're going to get back to show. And when we get back to show, very shortly after the next break, we're going to hear from the amazing Tiyi Shippers. Yes, we are. And she is a fantastic storyteller/story writer. She has a book out, which we talk about too. Make sure you check that out. I promised her I'd buy it, and I actually haven't bought it yet. I need to do that post haste. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to Tiyi Shippers. Yes. See you on t'other side. Okay, so as everybody's aware, we are, of course, doing calls with listeners now, which is absolutely amazing, and I never thought I'd get to do it, but what do you know, I'm doing it. And I have on the line, as people say, although it's technically the internet, I have on the internet none other than the amazing Tiyi, who's been in touch previously and told us what you guys out there have said have been some of our most terrifying stories to date. So, hello, Tiyi.
Hello, Kevin.
How are you doing?
I am doing well. The sun came out today and melted some of the snow.
Have you got snow?
We had snow. It's kind of spotty now, but yeah, I live up north in Michigan, and so we've had several inches a few days ago.
Oh my lord! So that you arguably get white Christmases, then, do you?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you lucky things! I think we had one in like 1984 or something, but that was it. Sorry, just so everybody knows as well. Tiyi actually has a Facebook group of her own. Do you not? Spooky.
I do.
Ghost Stories with Spooky Miss Tiyi.
That's correct. Yep. On Sunday nights, I tell ghost stories. I started when the lockdown happened here in Michigan, and we were all separate. And as many of us know, one of the things people did during the plague years was sit around and tell scary stories. So I threw it out there to friends and my own kids and said, "You want me to tell stories on Sunday nights?" And got a rousing yes. So I've been doing almost every Sunday since the middle of March.
Wow.
And I still haven't run out of stories, which is insane. I've had a few guests, my son and my daughter and some other people that live nearby, but mostly they're stories from my own experiences.
That is amazing. And also you've got from our emails back and forth, you've got a memoir out. Is that an actual book that you've got out of your experiences?
I do. It's the first book of 3. I'm working on book 2 now. It's my early childhood experiences in a haunted house in Chicago. The book is called Beyond Brick and Bone, and it's Antoinette Shippers. That's my birth name. Tiyi is my nickname. But it begins, the first part of the book tells of the haunting of my childhood that my family experienced. And then as I was writing, I was visited by the spirits of my childhood. And part 2 is their story that they conveyed to me.
Wow, that's amazing. And also, I want to congratulate you on your name. You know what I'm like for people's names? Antoinette. You don't get many Antoinettes, do you, these days?
No, you do not.
That is fantastic.
That's how I got Tiyi as a nickname. I grew up in Chicago, and my mother wanted to name me Antoinette after my great aunt, Creole aunt from New Orleans. And her name was Antoinette Marie. And my father said, no way, the nickname is Tony. Tony sounds like a tough girl standing on the street corner. No, daughter of mine. And so my mom said, well, we can call her anything. And he said, anything? So Tiyi is spelled Tiyi, and it's King Tutankhamun's grandmother's name.
Really?
It is.
Oh my God, your name. Look, I can't believe you have the unfortunate occurrence of talking to a Kevin. Honest to God. Antoinette or Tiyi?
I have a brother, Kevin.
Oh dear. Well then, I'm sorry for insulting your brother and me in the same process. Okay, so obviously with your experiences and of course the book that you've got out, you have sent us in a couple of stories in the past, and I will say I wasn't like blowing smoke earlier when I said it. I received quite a few emails off people who said, oh my God, that story was 1, so expertly written, but 2 was absolutely terrifying. And so I take it that sort of writing and that sort of scare factor is, I obviously I haven't read the first book that's out, but I take it that that's what goes on within the books also.
That is, yes. Each chapter is a different, it begins telling my family's story because the book or the house, I was the 4th generation to live in that house.
Wow.
So, which is very unusual in America, let me say.
Really?
Not so in other places, I understand, but very unusual in America. But so each chapter is a different incident that occurred to myself or my family members.
Wow.
Until part 2, as I said.
And this book, because we may as well do a bit of a plug for you before we go into the story that I know you've got for us. So this book, where can you get this book from?
This book is available on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It's available through Barnes and Noble. My publisher is Parkhurst Brothers Publishing out of Michigan. But I think the best way is on the interwebs with Amazon is probably the best way to find it. Yeah,
very good. And just repeat the title for us again, please, Tia.
It's called Beyond Brick and Bone by Antoinette Shippers.
Oh, is it in the full name Antoinette?
It's in Antoinette, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I need that just to be on my bookshelf so I can look and go, yes, we have an Antoinette on the bookshelf. Yes. Okay then, Tiyi, when you're ready, if you'd like to share us with your story, or tell us your story even, and everyone was just dying to hear it, I'm sure.
Okay, well, I can tell you another story from that house, or I can tell you the story of how the ghosts visited me while I was writing.
Whichever one you think is more suitable for me to listen to, considering that in the UK right now it's 11 p.m. It's quite dark in the flat. I am scared, and I only want to get more scared.
Well, then I'm about to terrify you.
Hooray! And boo! But let's see.
So, the 2 stories that I sent you were individual incidents. But there was something that happened in my home growing up that happened every single day without change, it was probably the most predictable thing in my childhood growing up. And that was the presence of this spirit that would walk up and down our hallway and our stairs. We had 18 stairs going up to the upstairs where there were a few bedrooms. And starting when I was super small, all of the children slept like dormitory style in the front bedroom, which was supposed to be the master bedroom.
Yeah.
But we had multiple beds there, and there was a bathroom attached to it that a door entered from the bedroom, but also from the hall. And the door to the bedroom was further down the hall. So we would get in bed, and if we had to get up to use the bathroom at night, we would wait to watch this specter come by the door. And
Wow.
all of us would see her together. It was a woman. And initially, we would see her, just the silhouette outline of the front of her, move past the door jamb, the door frame, and then she would take a step. And as she stepped, the light would fall back behind her and then catch up. So she like spread out and would catch up. And this was I'm a little older than you. So this was in the early 60s, late 50s. And there was a toy in the US. I'm not sure if you had it, but it's called a Slinky. And it was made of
We've got them now. I don't
springs.
think they didn't come round here till about the late 80s, early 90s. I don't think they crossed the pond that long ago. But yeah, we do know what they are.
Well, it's a spring, and you could put it on the step and it would roll down, and then it would catch up, and then it would go down and catch up. So we named this specter the Slinky Lady.
Because of how she moved.
Because of how she moved.
Yeah.
And we would watch for her and watch her go past the door, and you could count. And we may be a little OCD, but there was the ability to count 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000 as she passed toward the bathroom. And then at 16, every single time, she would appear at the other side of the door and start going back down the hallway.
Wow.
That
is terrifying. So it's almost like a repeating haunting, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it could have, she never looked around. She never appeared to notice us. So I would say now that it was residual, except she ended up being the strongest spirit that came through to all of us in multiple different ways. But that walk that she did was it was an echo. It was a loop. It never ended. I remember one
like
night
a loop,
that when my sister Kate, who was older than me, I shared a twin bed with my younger sister, and Kate, being the older sister, had her own bed, and I was sleeping, and she came and woke me up and shook me awake, and and she said, "Tiyi, I have to go to the bathroom. I forgot to go to the bathroom before bed, and I have to go." Now, we had a deal in that house that none of us would leave the other alone. We just would not do that, especially at night. At night, it was like, got your back. So even though the bathroom was just 4 steps away and she could have easily just whipped in there and back in bed in no time, I agreed to sit up and be her lookout. So she climbed under my covers, and the 3 of us Annie was sleeping and Kate and I are tucked under the covers as we watched the Slinky Lady pass the door frame toward the bathroom, and we counted quietly under our breath, 1,000, 2 1,000.
God, that's terrifying in the first place. Never mind the ghost. That's terrifying.
Until she appeared going the other way. And as soon as she passed the doorway heading toward the top of the stairs, I yelled. I didn't yell. I whispered, "Go, go, go." And she jumped out of bed, ran to the bathroom, didn't close the door, just jumped on the toilet. And I was counting. And I was counting 25, 1,000, 26. And I whispered, hurry up, 27. And when we got to, I think it was 65. I said, hurry. And Kate comes running, and she flushes the toilet, jumps into her bed. And just as we got to 70, boom, there she appeared.
Wow.
In the door. And even though, we were both safely in bed and we weren't going to have to encounter, the 2 of us just sat there watching and counting for probably 3 or 4 more loops until we went to sleep.
God. Can I ask, how old is the house?
The house was the very first house built in the area. It was built in the 1890. I can't tell you the exact date.
So it's over 100 years old. Easy,
oh, yes,
then.
It's over 100 years old. It was built shortly after the Chicago fire, the Great Chicago Fire.
Okay. And was it a big house? Like, would it arguably have had like servants in it, etc.?
No servants. But it was 5 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And
that's big enough.
It was big, but it was not, it had no live-in servants' quarters.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but it was built by these brothers called the Davidson brothers, who worked for the city of Chicago somehow right after the fire. And they disappeared. They both vanished, and it was bought by my great great grandmother in 96 for a wedding present for my great grandmother and her new husband.
Oh.
And my family had been there ever since. Every generation lived there. We actually rented the house from my great grandmother. She was still alive. She was in her late 90s, and we paid rent for that house that paid for her to be in a rest home, in a convalescent home.
That's lovely. And what about your grandmother herself? Did she claim to see anything in there?
Oh, yes. Yes, she did. As a matter of fact, my mother had things happen to her where she would hear footsteps on the stairs at night. And my father worked full time, and then he was going to law school at night. And I was an Irish Catholic family. And so by the time I was 5, I think there were 5 of us, maybe 6, and lots of children. And my mother stayed home and really raised us while my father was gone. But in the evening, she'd put us to bed and then sit down on the couch and wait for my father to get home. And she tells the story. Well, she told the story. She's passed now, but she told the story of sitting on the couch, lighting a cigarette, getting ready to watch a TV show all by herself for a change, and hearing somebody walking upstairs. And she thought one of us children was awake. So she went to the bottom of the stairs and she called our names, and nobody answered. And the upstairs had a railing along the hall, so you could stand at the bottom of the stairs, look all the way up the staircase, and see the entire hallway.
Right.
And she didn't see any of us. And so she just called our names and nobody answered. And she was ready to turn around, and she heard the footsteps still walking in the hall and realized they were heavier than a child. And so she stood there holding on to the railing at the bottom of the stairs. Now, mind you, this is an old house and with many children, and the railing was kind of loose and the stairs were creaky, and she heard the first step down the top step.
Right.
And then the next step, and she felt the railing heave.
Oh, what?
And
That's
she
amazing.
Oh my God, she pulled her hand off of it and grabbed the front doorknob, which was just behind her, watching as these steps descended one after another, and the railing heaved, and it would squeak on one and groan on another, and it came 3 steps from the bottom and stopped. And she stood there, just she praying, and crossed herself, and stood there for, she didn't know how long, until all of a sudden the doorknob turned in her hand, and it was my father. And she didn't tell him anything, but this happened for several nights in a row. My grandmother lived next door in a little bungalow that was built for her by her mother. And so my mom would help take care of her. She was crippled in her old age, and she was over at her house, and she just casually mentioned about hearing the footsteps. And she said, I must be just making things up in my head. I'm jittery because I'm home alone, and Dave's at work, and I'm there alone with the kids, but I keep hearing these footsteps. And my grandmother, totally without batting an eyelash, my Irish grandmother, says, oh, don't worry about a thing. That's just Pa. And my mother, mother says, what? What? And and she said, yeah. Now she said, Pa, you mean your father who died like 20 years ago? And she said, yeah. She said, you know that, and I know that, but I don't believe he knows that.
It was the grandmother's dad.
This was her dad.
Oh my Lord!
This is my grandmother's dad. So my mom is listening, and she's like, her jaw is on the floor, and she's like, holy crap, what am I going to do with this? And my grandmother goes on and tells about how she has seen him there, and how her older sister Teresa, how he walked in when she was getting ready for her wedding, and how she, how she had talked to him shortly after he died, and my mother said, well, what am I supposed to do? She says, oh, just tell him who you are, and tell him that the children are his great grandchildren, and tell him to stop scaring you.
Wow.
And so my mother, the next night, my amazing and brave mother, as soon as those steps start, she went to the bottom of the stairs, and she told me, I didn't say it out loud because she said, sure as hell, I did not want him to answer me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good point.
But in her mind, she spoke to him, and she said, I'm Davy's wife. Those are your great grandchildren. I'm here alone in the evening and you're scaring me. Angela said to please stop scaring me. And that was the last she heard of him.
Wow. That's impressive. And you know what? It's something, I know what you're saying. I mean, like my grandmother, who died a couple of years ago, she was Irish. And there was, and we were Irish Catholic too. But she was just, it was just so matter of fact that the other side just existed. They would say things in the same breath that they'd say, pass me that cup. You know, it'd be like, oh, well, that'll be your granddad. He's just messing around with you. Pass that cup. And you're like, what? No, no, no.
That is a true story.
That's
amazing. The same for my family, yes. Which is why, as a little girl, I lived in this house and we all experienced the spirits. And when I think all children do, because I've seen it. I've seen young children that look over my shoulder and I can sense something's there too. And I don't, but we acknowledged it. But then at a certain age, you start getting too busy to notice anymore.
I think you also start talking to people and they kind of talk it out to you too. It's
they
like
do.
My mother was a big well, she could definitely see stuff, and she had loads of like really interesting stories paranormal wise, but she always used to end anytime she'd talk about a ghost story, if I was scared as a kid or whatever, and she'd end it with the dead can't hurt you, you need to be afraid of the living. That whole saying, that's often said. And apart from her, really, everyone else that I've ever really talked to about ghosts, apart from this community that we're in now, and everyone's relatively open-minded, and you can let your suspension of disbelief carry a bit further when you're in the company of people who believe like you do. But everybody else just seems to, you either get laughed at or you get, it's not seen as a very, I don't want to say adults, but it's not seen as a very rational thing to believe in. The idea is there's much more pressing issues in the world that, like, why should ghosts be top of your agenda? And for me, it's because they arguably exist. There's too many people who've seen them. There's too many people who've experienced them. I run a podcast. You're talking to me now from the other side of the world, and we're talking about ghosts because you've experienced something.
It's true. And, I've spoken to many people about this, and in my weekly stories, sometimes I wax philosophical, but I believe that this is a phenomenon that is in our brains, that and not in our brains in terms of imagination, but that our brains are able to perceive things beyond what we see with our eyes and hear with our ears. And when we stop paying attention to those things, just like, every baby is born capable of speaking every single language on the planet.
Yeah.
But as you only hear the language around you, right about between 6 months and a year and a half old, the sounds that you don't hear, that babies don't hear, disappear from their ability to speak. So, for example, somebody here in Cadillac, Michigan would have great difficulty learning to speak Thai or an African click language because those sounds are no longer in their purview.
Yeah.
But and I believe it's the same thing with perceiving things beyond the physical.
It's a great theory. I do actually believe everything that you're saying there in relation to that. It's like that whole, there's another thing that makes me think, sorry to bang on about analogies, but my mother also used to say, if you want to see a ghost, you'll see a ghost, and if you don't, you never will. And I never grasped exactly what she meant, but now I understand that. It's kind of like, there's a little analogy that we use locally here. There's a local river called the River Alt, and it's about, say, 3 feet across. Now, as a child, if you try to jump that river, if you thought in your head, I can make this jump, you would make the jump. If you had any doubt at all about this jump, you'd end up in the river. And I think it's kind of similar thing with ghosts. If you're open to it and you think you're going to see one, similar to what my mother would say, you will see one. If you're skeptical about it in any way, shape or form, you'll never see a shadow person because in your mind, it's just a trick of your eye. You'll never see an actual apparition because it'll be dead skin floating across your eyeball. You'll always find the reason why it's not what it possibly could be.
Although I have been with people who are extremely skeptical, who then experience that phenomenon when it is so powerful and strong that it becomes undeniable.
Amazing.
And it's and for that reason, I think that one day, I don't ever say I believe, because once you say believe, you close yourself off to learning new things and changing.
Yeah.
So I always say I think, and I think that one day we are going to be able to find and measure these things that can slip in between dimensions.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. There's places just beyond what we can see. And you stand in front of any bush or shrub and you can hear insects and things inside, but you can't see them. And then they
Yeah.
fly out towards you and then they disappear back in. I have experienced things that fly in from places beyond the physical and then slip back out.
Yeah.
And
it's a really good way of thinking about it, the bush analogy.
Yeah, there's more than what we see. You drive past the forest, you drive past a house, and there's all kinds of life going on in it.
Yeah.
But you can't see it, but you don't have to deny that it exists there just because there's a wall between you and it.
You know what? Interestingly, you were just talking about, when you said earlier, I think as a child, everyone's got the ability to see something or do something. I was talking to a friend of mine recently who I was in primary school with, which is, I don't know I think it's one up from kindergarten, I imagine.
Right.
So we were in primary school together and I completely forgot about this. And I seen him before lockdown. And he's a skeptical person. He's literally a man of science. He is a scientist. He works for Kodak doing some sciencey thing. Anyway, he came up to me and he said, "Do you remember when we were in primary school?" And I'd forgotten all about this. And he said, "And we used to be able to put our fingertips about 5 millimeters apart, and we'd see the colours flowing into each other." And it blew me mind. And I went, "God, yeah, I do." I said, "Do you know what we were doing there? We were seeing each other's auras." And thinking back, that's exactly what we were doing. We were touching auras and they would kind of meld into each other and we'd sit there and watch them for like 5 minutes. And I said to him, "That's your aura?" He was like, "No, it wouldn't have been that. It would have been something to do with our eyes." I was like, "Mate, that was us seeing auras. You just can't see them anymore."
I think that's amazing. And you were absolutely seeing each other's auras. You were seeing the energy that passed between you in color. My grandson spoke to me about, it's in one of the stories on my Facebook page, where they were at a guest house and as a very little boy, he was probably 4 or 5, and he saw 2 spirits there. One was red and one was blue. And we talked about the red and blue spirits. And I've talked about that with his mother, that he's perceiving energy in color. And he's perceiving, another one, my daughter, who is, she lives in Chicago. She's a holistic health provider. She's amazing. But when she was little, we used to lie on our back and look up at the trees, and she would talk about the rainbows that were around all of the leaves above us.
Wow.
And I had always seen those. I had seen those since childhood, but I never knew anyone else who did, until she described them to me. And I said, "Yes, I see them too."
That's
and
amazing.
so as she grew, she stayed open, along with my other children, to the possibility of being able to perceive energy in different ways.
Yeah.
There's synesthesia, where people see sound in colors.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff like that. Why wouldn't we be able to see spirit energy in color or in form or whatever?
Yeah.
The fact of just cutting it off at ghosts or at spirits that are non-human and saying this exists, this does not exist, is like saying the world is flat.
Yeah.
To me, it's closing yourself off to so much possibility, and when we need so much possibility the way the world is today.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Holy cow!
So can I ask Tiyi on the lady who was going up the stairs, the spirit who was going up the stairs? 2 questions for you on her. One, did you hear any footsteps? I know you were counting how long she was taking to get places, but did you hear, like the way your mother heard somebody coming down the stairs? Did you hear any footsteps?
No, we did not.
Okay.
She floated, she glided. However, I did run into her once, and it was not a good situation.
Tell all.
Do you want to hear that story?
I do.
Okay, so on Sunday afternoons, my mother would do the laundry, and there were like 5, 6 kids. And in those days, girls had to wear dresses to school, and everything needed to be ironed and starched. And my mother took us off, I'll tell you what. And then she would have our laundry, and we would have to take it upstairs and put it away. Now, I told you the story about, or I sent you the story about my closet and the man in the closet.
Yes, you did. Terrifying.
And we never my sister and I shared a room. This was when we were a little older, and neither of us would open that closet door without the other there. And so my mother gave me a armload of dresses and said, take these up and hang them up upstairs. And I said, where's Kate? Where's my sister? And she said she took a load up for the dresser. Go on and put those right away. Don't set them down. If they wrinkle, we would get a beating if we didn't put those dresses away. And so I didn't see my sister in the living room with the rest of the kids. So I headed up the stairs figuring she was already in the room. And the other siblings were putting their clothes away. But when I got upstairs, she was not in the room and no one else was upstairs. Wow. And so and I gently, carefully set the dresses on the bed. And I went back out into the hallway, and without waiting to watch for the slinky lady. And I headed halfway down the stairs, and I was going to just keep going down the stairs till I found her, but she was in the living room. And so I stopped halfway on the stairs, holding onto the railing. My father would holler from the living room all the time, hold the railing and walk. And we never walked but we held the railing. And I saw her there and I said, Kate, come up and hold the closet door for me so I could put the dresses away. And she said, I already put the other stuff away. Mom said you would do that. I said, please don't make me do this by myself. And she said, okay, I'll come with you. And she started through, there was like an archway from the front room into the hall to the stairs. And she was right in that archway when I let go of the railing to turn around to go upstairs, to go upstairs before her. And I just let go, and I felt this hard force on my back that caused my back to arch, and I flew through the air. And at the bottom of the stairs, there was an old china cabinet that belonged to my great-grandmother that had all kinds of little china and diddly-wats and whatnot in it. And the whole front was glass. And I missed probably 6 stairs and tumbled down and hit that cupboard, and it fell and it crashed on me. And all glass was everywhere. And I landed at the bottom and I was stunned. And meanwhile, I hear my sister just screaming at the top of her lungs. She was not calling for help. She was just screaming, and I couldn't see anything. I was under this cupboard and glass. And I started going, Davy, push me, Davy, push me. That was my big brother, because it felt like somebody pushed me. Yeah. And my mom and dad came running. It was Sunday. My dad was home, and they lifted the cupboard off of me, and my mother combed the glass out of my hair, and I was unhurt, surprisingly. Yeah. But really, really shaken. And then later that evening, we went upstairs, and my mother herself hung up the dresses, and Kate and I, we would scooch together in the center of the bed, before going to sleep, tucking everything in so we wouldn't get touched at night. And she said, what happened? What happened? I was saying, Davy pushed me. And my mom said, Davy was down here. He did not push you. You fell. And Kate said, she did not fall. She flew. She wouldn't jump off the stairs. She flew down the stairs. And my mother said, it's okay. Nobody's hurt. It's all's well that ends well. She was always trying to soothe us from these terrifying experiences.
She must have known. She must have known.
She knew, because she put our clothes away and she sat on that bed with us, and she stroked my hair as I fell asleep, and she sang to us. And she never did that. We were older. We were school aged. Yeah. And she was busy. She was pregnant with babies all the time. But she spent a lot of time in that room with us, just stroking my hair and singing and soothing us. And after that, we knew to stay out of the way of the slinky lady. And after that happened, we all knew that what would happen.
Well, isn't that interesting though? Like, because that's literally the opposite of a residual haunting there. So she's managed to show both sides. If you've interacted with it and she's physically, like, aggressively pushed you down the stairs.
Except I don't believe she aggressively pushed me.
So what do you think? What would you describe it as?
What I would describe it as, and this is something that I've experienced since, and why I say this, is that as she came down, I was so acutely aware of the spirit energy in that house. I was a middle child, and so I was aware of all of the workings of my living family and all of the workings of the dead who shared that house with us, and stayed very acutely alert to things as they kind of exploded now and then. And so I was very in tuned with spirit energy. And at that time, I was also, I was working my astral self. I would leave the house at night to escape the noisiness of the house. And I believe that what happened, or I think that what happened, is that as she was coming down the stairs, I felt her energy. And because I was so pliable spiritually and physically, it pushed my spirit self out and my body followed.
I see. I'm
That's what I believe.
picturing that as you're saying it, to be honest with you. So you think it was more of I'm reticent to say magnetic effect, but like two magnets of opposite polarity where they push each other away. Do you think it was kind of like a meeting of energies that disagreed?
I have described it as that. And not so much that disagreed, but that it was like having an energy train come through you.
Wow.
And she was a powerful spirit. She was a powerful spirit, and there was something she needed. And so her energy and my susceptibility and it just shook me as I went down.
Like a perfect storm.
Yeah. And in my experiences with her in writing my book, when I'm not afraid of ghosts. I was afraid of ghosts, but I'm somebody that people call when they have issues to help them, and ghosts don't frighten me at all. And even non-human spirits don't frighten me. I feel confident in my own self to be able to interact or encounter these things. But I got to tell you, the ghosts of my childhood freaking terrified me. And I think it was because of the PTSD involved in that. So when I was writing my book and they were appearing, I was scared to death. And
do you think it was a case of you were kind of like, when you were writing the book and you were reliving that, do you think because you are so in tune with your spiritual side, you were maybe conjuring them up somehow?
Absolutely, I was.
Wow.
Absolutely, I was. And when I went to my parents' house, and I'm going to send you a copy of the book. So after we're off here, you have to email me your address, and I'll send you.
Oh, bless you! I will.
Because she tells anyway. As they were appearing, I was still afraid of them. And finally, one night, I woke up, and I was recovering from an injury that I had. So I was out of work and home, and I would wake up at night, and they'd be there, and I would do my the things that I do to protect myself and push energies away from me.
Yeah.
And finally, this one night, it was like, why am I afraid? What am I afraid to learn? And I said, okay, I will listen to you like I do with other ghosts. When I go into houses with people, I will tell me your story. What do you need? How can I help? And I said, but not tonight. I'm going to sleep. I will get up, and then you can tell me your story. And after that, for I think it was 3 weeks, the first part of the book, I wrote it like authors write, where I did all kinds of, 3 weeks, if that. I wrote the entire second part, and it was total stream of consciousness.
Wow.
It was their story coming through me. And after that, I feel completely released. Wow. I feel them released.
So it's very cathartic too.
Oh my gosh. It was so cathartic. When I was writing, not only, the trauma of the haunting of my childhood, but there were other, there was a lot of volatility in my childhood. And when I was writing, and towards the end of writing the book, I actually sought a trauma therapist to help me to help me really deal with, because these are stories that I've known, and I've told the ghost stories, and I've been telling the ghost stories my whole life. But my younger daughter, Era, said, Mom, these ghost stories are great, but this is not the story of these ghosts. This is the story of how you became the spirit medium you are.
Right.
You need to tell your story.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, but
Yeah,
she
I
was
don't
right.
blame you. Yeah. So, can I
Yeah,
ask then? So, from the stories that you've told us today, um, these center around the same time as book one that's out now. Yeah.
correct.
Okay. And what's
Yes,
book two? That it's a series of 3 that you're going to write.
right.
And what's
Book
the next
two,
one? Yeah.
book two that I'm writing now takes me from the time that we moved out of that house
Hmm.
until until I am, what happened was after we left that house, I got ill with what I was told at age 15 was something that would, cripple me and that I wouldn't
Wow.
live past my 30s. It turned out it was a misdiagnosis. It was something that I was able to treat in my late 30s. But I grew up with surgeries and in and out of wheelchairs and all this stuff. And so I maintained my connection with the spirit world. I would leave my pained physical body frequently and
Yeah.
go into the astral place.
Hmm.
And I had many experiences as an adolescent and as a young adult um, with ghosts and spirits, but it was it was happening to me. So
Yeah.
book two is more about what's happening to me as I learn the nature of the spirit world, and
Interesting.
and then book three is going to be where I feel like I understand the nature of it, and then manipulate and my journeys within and around dealing with entities, both human and non-human. And
It sounds fantastic. Don't send me the book because I'll buy it. Okay, because you are at the end of the day you are also, as well as being a medium and an author, you're also a creative, and it's I'll support the creative, so I'll buy it myself tonight. So I can't wait to get into it. I can't wait to read the other 2 books, especially as the astral projection side of it too. Because like I've said on the podcast before, I've tried it once and it worked, and I was paralyzed and I didn't like it, and I've not been able to don't do it since. But funny enough, this very afternoon, I was watching a Robert Monroe video on YouTube about his gateway exercises, and there's a meditation on there to try and do it. So I'm going to try and do that tonight when I sleep. Because I've also, interestingly, yesterday, when I was a kid, just going off track here, but have you heard of slide and where you walk under a lamppost and a lamppost goes off?
oh, happens all the time.
Yeah, well, it's happened to me around the same time that I first astrally projected when I was about 16. And it's happened 3 times in the last 2 to 4 days. So I've had these like weird little synchronicities happening where it's almost like a sign that I should maybe keep doing it. So I'm going to give it another little whirl tonight, I think. But anyway.
I would recommend that. And I can give you some tips, whether here now on the air or privately, on how to make that happen and how to protect yourself within that.
I think we'll do that privately, but
Okay.
only because I've got another call on the hour. But just interestingly, my TV's just turned itself on. You won't be able to see that, but
I know, I see it.
but the remote control is actually behind the laptop. So
Kev, you talk about your flat being haunted.
Yeah, yes, that was quite apt, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and I have a slightly different take on that.
Okay.
I think it's you.
Dun dun dun.
I think that you are far more tuned in than maybe and that you open things up as there are people have talked about listening to ghost podcasts and then things happening. Well, what happens is we are aware of it, we tune ourselves in, and then things happen around us. And I think that your energy is interacting with other things in your flat. It is probably, maybe most likely, and don't tell your partner this, haunted by some things, because I know what it's like. I have had people that are like, my children and grandchildren call me Ama, can you please clear this place because I don't like how it feels right now in my house? Why are the cupboards opening? And but
No, it's an interesting point. I mean, to be honest, it's mad you saying that because my theory on, when it's interesting when you always hear about Ouija board stories, for example, and you'd always say, we were doing the Ouija board and then this happened. We were telling ghost stories and then this happened. And exactly what you've just said there. But I think that people have two levels in the brain. One is what they think can happen and one is what they know can happen. So normally they meet in the middle and you think, I'm going to open that door with my hand. You know you can. They meet, you do it. But ghosts are like always up here on what you think can happen. They probably can't happen, and they probably can't, so they never meet. But when you tell ghost stories or you do Ouija board, the two levels, as your disbelief starts to shatter a bit, start to come closer and closer. And I think if there's enough people in a room and everybody's levels meet, and what they think can happen and what they know can happen meets in everybody's head at the same time, I think that's when, for example, I'm about to say like a vase flies off the shelf or something, but we've got about 3 vases that I'm looking at now, and if one of them does, you're going to be talking to an empty screen. Seriously.
So just tell whatever's there not to throw the vases off the shelf. But also, don't be afraid to acknowledge it. And your mother was right. The dead can't hurt you. The living can. The dead can scare you. And this is me after talking about being flown off the.
I was going to say, yeah. Wasn't you thrown into a shelving unit?
I was, but I have to tell you, now that I am aware of my own energy, when things try to pass through, they don't.
Okay. That's
so
interesting.
You as I think this is from my experience, that we as living people, we have both our physical and our spirit selves. And when you put those two together, they're pretty tight. And if you push your spirit self, that finger thing that you did with your mate in primary school, if you take that energy and push it just a half an inch or an inch away from your physical self, visualize it, picture those colors that you saw yourself, push it away from you, nothing can touch you.
I see. So like a protective blanket sort of thing.
It is. It's a protective blanket. And then with that around you, you can fully experience terrifying things, knowing
that sounds great. Sign me up. Yeah. Okay, Miss Tiyi, I will say right now, I could talk to you literally for hours, and we'll have to get you back on the show. Sadly, I need to go because I've got another call. But I was sincerely, as I've invented a new word recently today, I really want to thank you for taking the time to come on. It's been an absolute education and a terrifying pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kev. I appreciate so much what you do. You make it possible for people to acknowledge the things that happen to them. Thank you. It's a real service to the community.
Oh, well, shucks. Well, thank you very much, Tiyi. And best of luck with your book. Just give another shout out for your book before you go. What was the name of it again? Sorry.
The name is Beyond Brick and Bone by Antoinette Shippers on Amazon. That's probably the best place.
Amazing. Well, that's where I'm going to be getting it from. Okay. Well, Tiyi, as I say, you'll need, tell you what, when your second book comes out, come back on. We'll have another chat.
Thank you. I would love that.
I would too, sincerely. Okay, then I'll let you go. And again, thank you very much for talking to me about ghosts.
You are welcome. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks. Bye, Tiyi.
Bye.
And there we have it, yet the end of another hour and a half long show. Hour and a half. Kevin, with this content you'll be spoiling us, said the Ferrero Rocher ambassador. I do hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you have sleepless nights aplenty, because that's the point of the show. We want to scare ourselves witless, which is the nice way of saying, shh, I won't say it, because there are children listening. As if I haven't sworn in this episode. Anyway, respect thine mother and father, young whippersnappers. So that's the end of this show. Don't forget, if you want to come on and have your story read out by me, or you want to come on and talk to me about your story like people are doing, get in touch via email. Send it to contact@talkaboutghosts.com. I will either read it out or we shall have a discussion. That's how this show works. And until next week, unless you're a Patreon, in which case I will be talking to you very shortly. And don't forget, if you sign up to Patreon, you can enter that competition to win a signed copy of our book. Yes, you can, just by liking a post. Yes, go to patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. If you are doing that, you'll also hear me talking to you very shortly. because I'm about to do the Patreon show too. Okay then, guys, until next week, take care of yourselves and each other. Copyright Jerry Springer, mid-90s. I love you all, and I'll speak to you next week. Tatty bye.